today we're gonna explore how to connect, right? Because this is an exciting part. I guess this is one of the key parts of why are we even doing this whole Enspiral thing. No, it's about the people. Okay, the projects that are sprouting from there are great, but it's really the people that makes us come back for more and more and more and nurture these relationships. And I felt that I want to talk to you, Brigit, about that and explore a little bit, because you've been my European Node working group connection partner for 2 years or so. We started back in 2020 at some point, I think, at the end. So it's been quite a long journey.
Yeah, we've done well.
We've done well, but your journey in Enspiral started a long time before that, right? You've been around in the New Zealand side of things for quite a while, and then I assume that as this energy in Europe started to kind of materialize yourself, you found your way into it.
Yeah, I think if I wouldn't have been already part of Enspiral, the global one in New Zealand, it wouldn't even have entered my mind to enter Enspiral here in Europe. But and I wasn't a really active member there. I just went to the gatherings as far as I could make them, and it's through that I got to know Natty and Rich, and because of that, when they moved to Europe, we connected again, and then of course COVID happened, and Natty and Rich decided to have a bi-weekly call, or even a weekly call, I think at that point, just to support each other, all the people that were here that I knew and that were even were just interested in Enspiral at that stage. It was not just sort of a set thing, and we were hoping to have an Enspiral Europe gathering, our first one, and of course because of COVID that didn't happen. So we had a virtual one, and after that it all started, and then the connection working group started, and we had our bi-weekly connection calls, and we even had gatherings after that. So it was just it was amazing. And I think because of the connection calls, it was also easier to grow here, even though it's not growing as fast as we would like, perhaps. But I think we've got something to refer to. We've got something, a platform to welcome people to start with before they really have to join, or before they become a member of Enspiral, just to sort of feel into it a bit, like, okay, what sort of people are they? And yeah, in that sense, I think it's a really good thing to do and to have.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious though, because one of this kind of, let's say, starting moments where the energy really starts to flow in any project is, like somebody has to take this initial responsibility and put this initial energy. So I'm curious, what were your personal motivations for stepping into this more active role and actually, facilitating this bi-weekly calls? I mean, at the beginning, we didn't really know how it's going to look like, right? But you stepped into this working group kind of from what you were mentioning before, kind of being not so involved in Enspiral, just going to the gathering. So I wonder, like why? What sparked your curiosity and energy?
I think maybe because in New Zealand I wasn't so connected, and during in between the gatherings, for me, not much happened, and maybe also because I'm not a tech person and I wasn't involved in projects and things like that, and I missed that. And I thought, if there is a way to keep people connected between the gatherings, to keep people on board, because otherwise you might also lose people. Because gatherings might not be enough, or if you can't make it, or if you live too far away or whatever. And also I think COVID is a big thing, because you could always have those bi-weekly calls, and whatever happened, whether we would have a gathering or not, that would be there. And I am about connection. I think that is my main motivation in life. I am about keeping people together, connecting, and also inspiring leadership from from connection rather than just being leaders on their own, just and co-creating things. And so, and I love just facilitating, just so I think I knew I could bring something there without just going somewhere where I often just took a lot, and I would maybe facilitate one of the open spaces or two of the open spaces, but here I could actually do my thing and without too much effort.
Wow. I really like this in the context of this whole ethos of Enspiral, that when you see an opportunity, you don't just point it out, but you just kind of go there and do it yourself. So it seems like you really embodied that. Okay, like I wasn't so connected in New Zealand. I want to build these connections in between the gatherings. How can we do that? Well, I'm good at it. Let's go.
Yeah, and I really have to give credit to Natty and Rich, because they started it as a support call. As that's how I experienced it through COVID, when COVID started. And I actually just took it from there with obviously Jorium, and he was also really into that. And and I think because I already knew them, that made it easier. It just felt really familiar.
Yeah, it was a very interesting moment after our first digital gathering. This was just when I joined around this time.
Yeah.
So in our working group, there was originally, the working group for building connection in Europe, which essentially were kind of focused primarily on building this bi-weekly calls. Like this was pretty much something that we started doing and we continued pretty much until now, right? It's still ongoing. Even if the connection group, like the format and who is inside kind of rotated over the times. But it was a very interesting combination because we had you and Joriam, who was the catalyst at the time. So like high context people knowing a lot of people in Enspiral and already just kind of working within this context. And then it was me and Sylvia, who were just basically newcomers and coming in for the first time and like, okay, let's do this connection thing. So it was a very also cool experience for me to just already dive into, okay, like how can I integrate myself through building this connection in between the gatherings? So I feel like, we were really onto something. And this format, as I said, continued until today. It's over 2 years later now as we record this conversation, and the calls are still ongoing. So maybe I'm curious to hear about, like, why do you think it worked? And what were the lessons from there? And, how do you maintain momentum for a bi-weekly call for the network for over 2 years? Like, it seems like a long time to have it in place. And it's quite a frequent thing.
Yeah, I honestly, I haven't got a clue why it works. I think it's because it's so so open, so not formalized, and anybody can host a call, and we really welcome other people to host the calls as well, and if they want a co-host because they're not so sure, we can do that with them. And but I think it's mainly just a simple reminder, just in the beginning of the week. Okay, there's going to be a connection call on Thursday, and we might not have a specific topic. We just see what pops up, and somehow it always works. There's always people there, and there might not be a hell of a lot of people there, but there's always people there. So you never sit there and think, oh, this was a waste of time. So it's good, and I really love making time for that.
I really like how you frame it, that it's just basically a reminder that, hey, there is this space with these cool people, and it's always different, and it's really open. Anyone can suggest a topic, and whatever happens. And I feel this was also a very interesting journey that we had, maybe, that in the beginning we were more in this kind of proactive planning mode, like, oh, let's have topics that make sense and reach out for facilitators and try to kind of ping people. And then with time, it seems like it naturally becomes almost like open space model where sometimes there's not even a thing that is suggested before, but just show up to the call, and then whatever happens in the call is what happens in the call, and it doesn't need to have like a preparation. So it seems like there's a very low barrier to join, even as a facilitator, because maybe there is no need for a facilitator essentially.
No, sometimes there isn't, and it's nice if somebody as a host, just keeps the whole thing together and keeps an eye on the time and that sort of stuff. But it's just easy. It's you don't always have to sit and prepare something and a format and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes if we feel like it, we do that, but it's not like we have to. And it's mainly just being there. I think we are about the being part of Enspiral, it's not the doing part. And I think that just being there, just being available for people to connect, I think that's the main key that it's successful. That it's
This is very like deeply resonating with me. This state of making yourself available for others, and just I'm there. I'm there, ready to connect, and we connect in whatever way feels good on that day. Maybe this would be actually a fun question to ask you. Like because we tried so many different things. Do you have a couple of examples, or like one that really stands out as a memory? Like, oh wow, this call, not to like judge some better than others, because I don't think really this is how it works, but I wonder which calls really like engraved themselves in your memory, if any.
The one that really comes up straight away is the one where we were just with the three of us, with Sylvia, you, and me, and we just did a meditation. We were just silent for most of the time. If it would have been recorded, it would have been so funny, but it's but we were just, it was so lovely just to be there. And we were both, all of us were really sort of tired and we needed time. I think you were actually hosting a gathering on Pico, and it was really like hectic for you guys there. And so it was so timely, and it was so good to just take that time. And I think in the middle of moving house or something like that, so it was perfect. And that just happened because when checking in, we expressed our needs, and that was what came up. We've had so many interesting calls. Just completely as a surprise. I remember also one really vulnerable call about what was the most painful for you in the last 2 weeks or something like that, and we went really deep. And it was also just popping up in the beginning. And we had also really fun facilitated ones, just just trying out new facilitating modes or something like that, methods or whatever. And it's really lovely to experiment with that as well. That space to experiment, I think that's also really great. It's like open space, more or less. You just bring something and you see what happens.
Yeah, and I like this what you named, like this, it's such a variety of things. Like we had this kind of more workshopy facilitated things, like, the game of gifts and some processes and, basically like workshops that you would do online. And yeah, we had this one call that also came up for me immediately when I was asking you the question, like when we just meditated for an hour, because this is what we really needed that day. And it was perfect, left us all so nourished. And then there were these kind of calls where we just go deep in breakouts or pairs or all together and just like dive into some topic and like hold this more vulnerable space. And there were more like projecty things, like when people can just share what they're up to and do like more of a case clinic type of call. It's just such an open space, and it somehow always serves the needs of the group and whoever is coming up. Like there's not maybe so many people coming up. Maybe this is something also useful to explore together, like this other side of it, because we have been feeling sometimes, like, I remember in our working group meetings, this was coming up kind of always, like, oh, how do we get more people to actually suggest topics and kind of bring more energy into, yeah, not necessarily facilitating, because it's not necessarily requires that, but just bringing more ideas of what we could do. Would you like to share your kind of points on that process of like how to activate more people to participate?
Yeah, that's one thing that is always on my mind still. How can we make it more living in the whole community? And I think part of it is to do that. Some people just cannot make it at that time that we have, which is a shame. And we've experimented with other suggestions and things like that, like, hey, how would it be if we change it to another day? And then there's also not really a big response. So that's really difficult to manage that. And I feel it would be of benefit for so many people. So it would be great if we could get more people involved. Also participating, but also bringing up ideas. And we haven't found the perfect way to do that yet. And but it's always in the back of my mind, like, okay, how could we do that? And so if somebody listens to this and sees it and says, okay, well, this might be a way, well, you're very welcome to come with suggestions.
Yeah, this is always this challenge of activating more people, but somehow it still always works, and we have usually this minimum viable number. Like, okay, I think the lowest one was like 3 people, but it usually tends to be more. And like, I think the bigger ones tended to be like even more than 10. So there are people showing up. And and we have this consistent rhythm that, like, hey, every 2 weeks, these people will be there. You can show up. And just have like this connection being built and feel it, which is really nourishing. And it serves like, well, this is maybe actually a question for you rather than a statement from me, but do you feel that this actually addresses this need that you had before, that you didn't really feel so connected in between the gatherings?
For me, it certainly does. For me, I feel that through these connection calls, the people I hadn't seen yet, I hadn't met yet, I really built already a deep connection, and it was lovely to see a lot of those people. Also, hey, you, of course, and Sylvia in Portugal in the last gathering. That was amazing because we already knew each other, so we felt this love for each other without having ever met. And I think, for me, it certainly served that purpose. Absolutely. And
Nice.
I guess also for other people, it's just that, okay, people look a little bit different on screen than in reality, but you already, the vibes are already there. The energy between you is already there. And so it takes a lot less time to really, build on that. And you just go on. And for me, it's a great thing to have in between the gatherings. And also, like, the next gathering I cannot make, and I know that I still will be able to see you in between. It's not like, oh, but I won't see you then for a year or something like that. I see you on screen all the time, and it's not completely the same, but it's still, I'm so grateful. I've never been so grateful for internet as through COVID and through the connection calls and things like that. It's really, really helped me to stay sane, I think.
And I can relate to that. Like, I mean, my journey was different in Enspiral in a way that when I joined, it was a digital gathering, and then there was COVID, so I didn't go for a physical gathering, and then I missed the first 2. It was just like too complicated, too far from where I live. So I was experiencing Enspiral pretty much exclusively through these connection calls when it comes to, not just to Slack or Lumia, but to actual interactions with people. And yes, it's not the same as in real life connections, but it served like a solid foundation that then, when I finally had the chance to meet everyone in person, it felt like, okay, wow, a lot of kind of groundwork has been already done and we can already reach kind of a different level? Well, we've been connecting for a year and a half, so it's been a long time. But I'm also curious to hear your perspective also on our gatherings in Europe. So we had this kind of first digital one that just was supposed to be the first Enspiral Europe gathering, but then COVID happened, and then we had a digital replacement that kind of worked. It essentially started this whole energy in Europe, and then we had the first in real life gathering in France, in Bergerac. How was it for you to like meet for the first time? Like, how do you convene people from a new node that we didn't even have a node? Like, this terminology didn't really exist. It was just an idea. Like, hey, we have this energy in Europe. It seems like something is happening here. Like, how do you bring together all those people to actually come there? And then what happened in Bergerac the first time when Enspiral Europe nodes met together in person?
Well, I still remember being super, super, super excited that we were actually going to have a physical gathering. And I was so scared that some stuff would be sort of being put in between again, that you couldn't travel or something like that. And it was not all that easy. And you had to do all sort of extra efforts to get there. But I don't know, I think there were quite a few people that really wanted to go to the gathering. So I can't remember exactly how many people we had there, but it was a good group to have this gathering, especially for the accommodation that we had there. And everybody was just so happy to be there, and we were all scared. Still, we hadn't been closer than 1.5 meters from each other for so long, with other people, and there all of a sudden we were hugging each other and touching each other, and it was so exciting. So and there were a few new people there as well, which was interesting, to see how that works. But it just flowed really easy, and it was. The owners of the place we were at, they had also a little boy, and he was sort of running around through all the meetings we had, which was also funny, and they were really good with him. They just let him go until it became really difficult or something like that, and then only then they would go away. But he added so much love to the whole group of people, and so I really, really enjoyed that. And I don't know, it was just, I felt so, really, really happy to be there. And I think that's the main feeling of the people there. We had a lovely gathering, and of course we used the Enspiral format in a way, just having the opening ceremony, having an explanation about open spaces, and having the open spaces for 2 days, and then the closing ceremony. And I don't know, just having that really rough framework that helps to keep the gathering together, to make it work. And there were enough people that knew how it worked, which is helpful, so you don't have all new people, so you have to really explain everything. So this works because we had a few people that were there and they could explain it. And of course, Rich and Natty being the eldest, sort of the elders of the gathering, and Jorium, of course, he was there.
Yeah, it sounds like a very magical moment in time, and also given the context of just like this COVID transition part, like, oh wow, finally after all this time gathering in person and just experiencing this proximity to others, not just emotionally but also physically. I can imagine that it must have had like a very powerful impact on everyone gathered. And I'm kind of curious how that did this gathering translate into this evolution of Enspiral Europe. So, we've been together for a while. There was this growing idea. There was this digital gathering. and the energy started to move, and then enough people said like, no, we want an in-person gathering, it's gonna happen, we're gonna make it so, and then it did happen. How did this impact the node? Like what happened later? Why even, I'm kind of trying to dissect the role of gatherings in this node formation process, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just tasted like more. We wanted more of that. We wanted to be more often together. And where, in New Zealand, it was most people were in one country, and of course we had people from Australia as well. But here we were so far apart, but we wanted to be more often together. And straight away people offered to volunteer to be the host at the next gathering, which also is really helpful. And for both these gatherings, it was up till the last moment, sort of really like, ooh, is it going to happen or not? Are we allowed to do it? And so there was always a lot of stress on the hosting team in that sense. But I think it was just mainly that we really realized that it's so good to be together, and that you can really support each other. So I think there's a lot more one-on-one contexts coming from there who deepen. You really connect with one or two people in the gathering, and you extend these connections after that as well. And then it's really lovely again to see each other, be able to see each other every second week if you want to. Yeah, without having to make an appointment or anything like that. If you want to, you can just see each other.
Yeah, this feels like a very powerful combination, and I felt that also in the last gathering. So it was in the summer gathering that we co-hosted together, and it was my first Enspiral gathering. And I felt a very tangible shift also in my relationship with Enspiral and also the group. Like the connection calls were great. They served their purpose of connecting me with people in the network, but it's really the gathering that created this feeling like, okay, I want to be doing this. And then like when I've seen the invitation for the winter one, it was kind of the next one that we're gonna have in a month from now. Yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like, yes, I'm gonna make my way there. So I can see that. And then yeah, you go there, this energy is renewed. You build more connections with people, you have a great time, you build one-on-one relationships, maybe some projects start, maybe we take the Enspiral node governance to the next level, but then the gathering is over at some point, and then you still have this recurring rhythm that, hey, every 2 weeks, if you want, there is open space for you to show up, and you can just maintain very easily. Like, it's very little on logistics labor, right? It's just there. Like, there is a call, it's scheduled, the invitation's been sent for the next half a year. Just show up if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think in the gathering you really feel part of the whole in a way, that is really physically tangible in your body even. You're part of this bigger thing. In the connection calls you have that, it's not that strong, but I think in the gathering you really feel it, and you can maintain that energy until the next gathering, which is it's perfect. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love this combination. And I feel like I have kind of one more question for you, which is something that Dan mentioned in one of our connection calls recently. So when we were kind of exploring, like having this a little bit of meta perspective on connection calls and just talking with people about them, he mentioned that, but guys, like you have connection already. The purpose has been served. So the calls are, it's not that they're not working, but the purpose was to connect, the connection is built. So I guess my question is, it does feel this way. So what's next? Like what's next that could happen for this biweekly rhythm that is already so established in our kind of community scaffolding along the biannual gatherings?
Yeah, what he also said was we just have to deepen our connection. And so I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to deepen our connections and welcome new people and show them that we are connected. And of course, that's not so easy when you're new and you feel this group of people that are already so connected. But that's how it always starts when you join a new group. But I think it also makes a really, I said it in the beginning as well, really welcoming vibe for those people. So like, they're so welcome. And I feel that personally very much, like, okay, come and show up and see what we are and who we are. And I think the most beautiful part of this is that people show up really authentic most of the time. And that is what touches me every time again, then I think, oh, wow, this is just what we made this safe place for people to show up authentically. And and I would like to continue that for a while to come. I don't know when the moment comes when I say it's been enough, but for now I feel I can continue this.
Well, it's really beautiful how you wrap this up with, it's this feeling of safety, this open arms, like, hey, welcome, we're gonna have a great time, it's a safe space, you can be yourself, and we can just meet our needs on that day, whatever it is, and help each other and just have a good time and be together, right? You have this unofficial or official title of the Queen of Being, so I guess it's great to know that you're helping us with that.